Alrighty, so this has been long overdue. I finally are going to talk about the Seattle Sounders and their recent struggle as well. And I probably should have done this video in the midst of this 8-game losing streak that they had because in their last game they finally broke the franchise record for the longest losing streak in team history, with it stopping at 8 games. And of all games to stop the losing streak, I didn't think going on the road against FC Cincinnati and pretty much playing a Tacoma Defiance kind of team going on the road to face against FC Cincinnati is the game where they finally broke the winless run. Just kind of shows you that, yeah, this Sounders team, despite the rough season that they've been having, there are still a little bit of that old school grittiness that they've shown, and something that we've seen Brian Schmidt's team done, where they kind of depleted to the bone. The fact that they're playing almost an MLS Next Pro team and still yet able to go on the road to get themselves a point against one of the hottest team in the league and one of the toughest place to get points away, that is TKO Stadium. But that being said, besides that positive news, it's been nothing but dark when it comes to how things have gone for the Seattle Sounders. They're currently 13th in the Western Conference, which is, I believe, one of the lowest position I've ever seen the Seattle Sounders have made. Though I remember back in 2016, didn't they finish at the bottom of the Western Conference, and then they fired Ziggy Schmidt and they brought in Brian Schmitza, and the next thing you know, not only the new head coach Booth has turned out to be very good, but yeah, little do we know that Brian Schmitza was the answer, and he's been in the helm for over a decade now, longest serving head coach out of an MLS team, and have won a couple of MLS Cup with this team as well. But currently they're 7-4-9, and they've only scored 22 goals this season. That is by far one of the worst goal scoring mark out of any team. In fact, only Sporting KC have a fewer amount of goals that have scored so far this season. It's the second lowest as well. They give up 27 goals, which is kind of the only saving grace that they had in terms of this season just become an absolute disaster. If it wasn't for their defense, even if it's depleted to hell, this team would have just been a laughing stock every single. We would have just kind of got blown out. Though, to be fair, I say that there are some games, as we'll talk about in the losing streak, where they did actually got absolutely blown out, and they currently have a goal differential of -5. They're currently on a 9-game winless run, which is the longest winless run the Seattle Sounders have ever had, and they've only got one win in 12 in all competition. That one win came in the League Cup as well. So in many ways, this is kind of similar to what I said about Minnesota, where Minnesota also had that long winless run. Looked like they were trying to finally end it, and they got that one good win in the League Cup to maybe give them some confidence, and it kind of didn't. And just like Minnesota, it's the same issue that the Sounders have had. They definitely have a pretty good defense, but it doesn't matter when that good defense is being wasted because of the fact that nobody on this team can score the goal that they needed to finally snap out of this long funk that they've been in since May. Now, obviously, one of the big reasons why they have been in this long funk, and one of the biggest reason why this team is suffering probably the worst season we have seen the Sounders have had. I mean, I know we saw in 2022 when they missed out on the playoffs for the first time, that was pretty bad, but I argue this one was probably worse considered the points total that they currently have, which is only 25 points. And I think without me even have to talk about what is the reason why this winless run has happened, the big part of this winless run is obviously the injury crisis. I mentioned before with the Sounders the fact that this is probably the worst injury crisis I've seen a team since the 2021 Columbus Crew team. Remember in 2021 where Columbus was fresh off an MLS Cup win? It feels like they not only had to pay the MLS Cup tax in a big way, but everybody was injured to hell in that team, and that's kind of the reason why Caleb Porter got another year, because not just because of the MLS Cup winning honeymoon period, but it's the fact that the whole team basically just died. Like the whole team was injured to hell, and it's the same thing with the Seattle Sounders team. I mean, it just feels like every time when they get somebody back, somebody else would get injured, or the guy that they brought back would go back into the IR. And I decided to create a list of it as well because, yeah, that is a really long list. That's pretty much almost the entire starting 11 that's not available for the Seattle Sounders team. So we start off with Paul Arriola. Now, originally we thought that the calf injury that Paul Arriola suffered was going to be very bad, and it looks like his season is done. But apparently, it's not as severe as we thought it is. And I also decided to put a return timeline. I did do my research in terms of multiple site in turn, especially at Sounders at Heart, which is one of their fan base kind of news site. Which if you're a Sounders fan, I highly recommend you read that and visit that website. Though I'm pretty sure a lot of Sounders fans have already known about Sounders at Heart as well. But yeah, I basically use that site, use different sites in terms of finding out exactly when these players is going to come back. And I also put a question mark because it's not guaranteed that that is going to be the case. But from what I heard, it seems like early September is going to be where they are projected that Poirier is going to come back. And again, I thought when he went down, it looked like he's done for the season. But seems like that calf injury, which was non-contacted, it seems like it's not as severe as what we thought he would be. Now, we look at the next injury. We got Pedro de la Vega, who currently suffer a quad injury, and I put out of the season with a question mark because originally it looked like Brian Schmitzer said that it wasn't going to be that severe, but then he says that never mind. It looks like it is more severe than we thought it is, and I think he is pretty much out for the season. And also, when we saw that 7 minute appearance that Pedro de la Vega came back from injury, is that the last time we see him in a Seattle Sounders jersey? Because you just kind of had it sense that I'm not quite sure if his contract runs out this year, but you gotta had a sense that maybe the Sounders are thinking about maybe exercising a buyout or even decided to hope to trade him to another team, which I don't know that's gonna work out because I don't think anybody want to take a damaged good like Pedro De La Vega is because again, as talented as De La Vega has, he's proving it when he's healthy. That's the key word. He has never been healthy, and it's always been an issue. Even going back to his days before he came to the Seattle Sounders, there were that concern that he was damaged good, and yeah, it turns out that that was the case, and like I said, I feel like as talented as Pedro de la Vega is, I definitely need to move on from him. He just cannot stay healthy enough to continue to hope that one day he's going to reach his potential and stay healthy, and that day is just not going to be the case. We said that for the past couple of years, and it just hasn't happened. And then we got Hassani Dotson, who currently is dealing with a hamstring injury. He might be available in the next game. In fact, there is a report saying that there could be three players that could come back for the Seattle Sounders next game. They actually said that it was going to happen in the Cincinnati game, but apparently that wasn't the case. I guess that was the game where, again, the reason why I say that game against Cincinnati, that was just such an improbable result for the Sounders, and I definitely did not expect that was the game that they end this winless run. Is the fact that that Brian Schmetzer, he basically said he's not taking any chances when it comes to putting any of his starters in and get injured again. He basically just decided to put a Tacoma Defiance team, knowing that we got to just kind of ride this now. And it's also important to know that it is the third game in 7 days, so I understand why he didn't decide to put that risk, and also going on the road as well, going far away from Seattle. I can understand why he decided to put a Tacoma Defiance kind of team. So this is where I think that Hassani Dotson and then the among the other couple of players that I'll mention potentially come back next game at as well against the Chicago Fire at home. Now, we got Jesus Ferreira, who currently is dealing with a hamstring injury. He could potentially be out of the season. Is 8 to 10 weeks, and that was back in August 16th. That is, so if you do the math in terms of 8 to 10 weeks, he could be out at least till late October, and maybe even out for the season as well. Because if the Seattle Sounders doesn't make it to the playoffs, the season of course ends early November. That is, I believe it's the second week of November. That is that we have decision day. He could be for the season if the Sounders doesn't actually make it into the playoffs. And this is also kind of the reason why they probably bought his insurance players that I'll talk about that could fit into that role if he is potentially going to be out for the season. Then you have Yamar. Yamar has been out for a pretty long time now. He's dealing with a calf injury. The timeline is mid-September, but again, every time they said that he's going to come back, it seems like there is a bit of a setback. So we'll see how that's going to work out. And then Jordan Morris, again, one of those players that could potentially be available in the next game as well. He's been dealing with a quad injury the last couple of weeks, but could potentially be out or could potentially be back next game. Now, one player that is pretty much confirmed to be out for the season is Nikola Pekovic. He done his ACL back in April during a training session, which that has got to be brutal. I mean, I mentioned before, one of the most brutal way to get yourself done for the rest of the season is either doing international duty or doing the training session, and that is, of course, the case. Unfortunately for Nikola Pekovic, he's going to be done for the season. And then Jackson Reagan, of course, he's currently suffering a knee injury that he picked up in the middle of August. There's an unknown timeline with him. They've just recently diagnosed that he has a knee injury. They didn't give exactly what the timeline is going to be. So again, when you have both of your backline partnership that is currently injured, it's no wonder why the Sounders are struggling. And it's kind of almost a miracle the fact that the Sounders are not conceding as much goals as we thought they would be. No, more of that maybe is due to the fact that it feels like Brian Schmetzer has got a very pragmatic approach ever since this injury crisis has happened. Then we look at questionable Christian Rodon, who of course is one of those free players that could potentially be available in that game for the Chicago Fire. He currently have a quad injury itself. Now looking at the last MLS win, it was May 13th. The last win was against the San Jose Earthquakes. What's kind of interesting is the fact that that was kind of around the same time where Minnesota had their last win as well, and that last win that they had prior to this weekend, where they won against the Quakes, was also a 3-2 scoreline. It was the Sounders winning 3-2 against the San Jose Earthquakes, and then after that, they lost against the Galaxy. That was a bit of a surprising result, considering the Galaxy wasn't playing very well. Then they go on the road and lost to LAFC 1-0 to finish off the season prior to the World Cup break, and then coming back from the World Cup break, it's nothing but misery again. They took a 5-1 thrashing at home against the Portland Timbers, one of the worst day when it comes to the Sounders, when it comes to the long history of the Cascadia Derby. Then they go on the road and lost 3-1 to Austin FC, a team that obviously wasn't doing well either. Then they go on the road and lost 1-0 to a rejuvenated Union side before playing in the Cascadia Derby again and had a 1-0 lead against the Portland Timbers. Looks like maybe this is the turnaround that they needed, only for them to give up 2 goals and lose that one as well and got swept in the Cascadia Derby. Now, in the other forgotten Cascadia Derby, they also lost that one. They lost 2-0 against the Vancouver Whitecaps, and I remember that was the game where they were pretty much playing scared for the whole game. They just had no attacking threat whatsoever, and it was almost a matter of time before the Whitecaps would get that win, and that's exactly is the case. Then they lost 2-1 at home against Austin FC, and then just prior to this weekend, they finally stopped the bleeding and end this 8-game losing streak by drawing 1-1 against Cincinnati. But as I mentioned before, the winless run continues, currently at 9 games. Positive news, of course, with the Sounders team. One positive news I didn't mention is the fact that at least the losing run is over. At least they stopped the bleeding. We'll see whether that means the next game they can actually stop this winless run in general as well. But probably the biggest positive news coming out of this team, besides some players coming back, is the arrival of Dejan Joveljic. Now, obviously, number 9 wasn't really a position that I thought that they really needed, because when you look at the depth chart of the number 9 spot, the Sounders are pretty good in terms of start. I mean, they have Muswowski, they have De Rosario, and then if Jordan Morris is going to come back as soon as next game, they're pretty good in terms of that spot as well. So that kind of makes me wonder why they decided to go for a 9. I mean, I guess it's the thing that I will say about this team is that because of the fact that the fans has been demanding the front office to do something, and especially demanding their owner Adrian Hunt to actually do something. I feel like it's gotten to a point where the front office just had to do something. Craig Waebo has to do something, otherwise he's probably gonna lose his GM spot in the next GM vote that is coming soon for the Sounders. And the arrival of Dejan Joveljic would definitely help, and especially the amount that they got, only $6 million that they of course got him from. That is relatively cheap for Dejan Joveljic, especially of how good he's been. He's not only a proven goal scorer, but he's been proven that even when you're on a team that is kind of down to the studs, that he can still score goals. I mean, last season with Sporting KC, I think he scored like somewhere around 16 goals, that is, and that was a very bad Sporting KC side. So that will definitely help this team when it comes to goal scoring. I mean, as long as you play the ball to him, he will always find a way to score the goals. Might be the a little bit of the concern I'll talk about the Sounders of how they can of course get him involved, and that also kind of makes me wonder, like, with the return of Jordan Morris coming back in the next game, does he maybe come off the bench for Dejan Joveljic? I mean, some might say that Joveljic might not start. I disagree with that. I think he's going to start in the next game. And remember, he just played with Sporting KC recently. He just had an He didn't play in the last game, so he's fresh to play slot right into the starting 11. So I think he probably will start. Maybe Jordan Morris will come off the bench, or maybe Morris might go back and play on the wing spot. They have played in the wing before as well, so that should be very interesting to see. And then of course they might get free players back into the game. So again, Dotson, Morris, and Christian wrote down all those players could potentially be back in the next game. Now the big concern of this team is the fact that they feel like they need to spend more money and they need more reinforcement. I mean, I know Sounders fans are happy that they finally desperately got the reinforcement that they needed, but there's still a lot more that they needed. I mean, the one big area that I think the Sounders team still need to figure out is the winger position. And I guess, going back to what I said about Jordan Morris, maybe put him in the wing area. Maybe the same with Christian Rodon, though I don't think he usually play in that spot as well. So yeah, there's definitely that area that you need to address, considering that pretty much everybody on this team is injured to hell, and they don't have a natural winger that can really provide the service for Dejan Joveljic. Joveljic is kind of a guy that you still do need to give him service as well, and that's kind of the one area that they hope for. Though maybe with Christian Rodon coming back, he might be the guy that actually provides the service to him. I mean, I also forgot about Albert Rusnak as well. Maybe that might be another player that could do. I mean, that might be a shot in the arm for Albert Rusnak. The fact that he maybe can finally play those beautiful ball to Dejan Joveljic and set him up. Maybe that will be the way to kickstart this Sounders team as well. In fact, that probably might be more of the real proposition than Rodon. Might be the guy because Rodon is more of a midfielder by trade than rather than just an out and out playmaker. And then of course the endless injury crisis. So despite the fact that they are getting players back in the next game, who says that those players are going to get injured again? Because this season it just feels like it's an endless injury crisis cycle. Every time they get player back, somebody else would get injured. I mean, they are just so snake bitten. Every single game, there's always new injuries that has happened. So all the good news is the fact that they are going to get players back and healthy. Who says that those players are going to stay healthy for a long period of time? There is no guarantee that that is the case. In fact, I would bet my money the fact that won't be the case because knowing the trend this season, it hasn't been the case that every time when those guys comes back, oh great, 2 weeks later they're back in the IR list again. And then of course the lack of an attacking option that is definitely still a bit of a concern, even with the arrival of Jovic as well. I still think that they need to spend more in terms of getting some real reinforcement on the attack. And again, this goes back to the front office, whether or not if they will do so. Now, looking at the next 5 games, they got the Chicago Fire at home, and this is a Fire team that probably will be a little bit pissed off after they lost to Rayados and was really the only team that was remotely close in terms of moving on into the next round. Because don't look at what happened the other free Leagues Cup game where MLS team just embarrassed themselves against Liga MX's opponent. But then they play against the New York Red Bulls at home before going on the road to face against the Galaxy, go on the road to face against Colorado, and then return home to play against RSL. So the schedule is not bad. I mean, the Chicago one is going to be tough. But remember, Chicago did play in the middle of the week. They're probably very tired right now with the way that they've been playing so many games in such a quick succession. The Red Bulls one, that one could definitely be a reserve because the Red Bulls has been kind of inconsistent and kind of inconsistently bad in a way. The Galaxy is kind of a team that's still kind of going through a bit. The one against the Rapids, that one probably might be an L, considered the Rapids are very good this season at home, and then facing against an RSL team that is kind of similar to what we say about Seattle, also another team that's kind of going through for a downward period. Yes, the schedule does get a little easier for the Sounders team, and yes, if they can finally, I feel like if they can just finally get a win. We talked about this many times before. When a team going for a long winless run or a losing streak, if you can get yourself back into the winning column, the confidence level will be in the team. The vibe will definitely change when you're back on the winning ways, then you're in the midst of a losing run as well. So I think it's kind of important that if this Sounders team can get a win in their pocket, then maybe that will take the monkey off the back because it's pretty clear that doing this losing streak that they on, it's not just the injuries that is a big concern. I mean, you can definitely blame on that, but it's also just the psychological and the mentality of this team. And we always talk about Brian Schmidt's the team always tends to have a very big mentality, but it only go so far if you're on a losing run. Any team with a strong mentality and a strong team in terms of the chemistry is going to have their frustrating moment, especially during the losing streak, and especially during that losing streak, I saw a lot of times where these Sounders players had their heads dropped, and a lot of them just got the body language. You can clearly tell that it was not great. It just feels like it's here we go again every single game when they come on the losing run, and a way to change that is to get themselves back into the winning column. So we'll see whether or not if that is the case. I mean, if you have watched this channel long enough, anytime when I make these kind of video, usually that kind of means that the team will bounce back. Maybe I need to do another one about San Jose Earthquakes, consider they're in the midst of a losing run. Maybe even talk about RSL as well. They're also in the midst of a really bad losing run coming out the World Cup break itself. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys hit the like, smash the subscribe button. If you're a Sounders fan, what do you think of this video? Do you think eventually they will step out of this recent struggle? I think they definitely will. I mean, when you look at the schedule, it is definitely favorable toward them. They can definitely snap out of it, but we'll see when exactly they, of course, will snap out of this. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.